Hi, welcome. My name is Gerard Klein-Essink. I'm the founder and CEO of FoodConnect, a company organizing an AI and food tech summit in September. And in regards to this summit, where we will have also Johan Langenbick of Foodpairing presenting, we thought it would be nice to have a preview about your experiences and also maybe what you're going to talk about. So I'm very thrilled to have such a maybe veteran, but you're not by age, but by experience, a veteran in many ways, who has really been at the brink of the start of AI, building a fantastic company to have you here with us. And before doing that, I wanted to ask you maybe to explain a few things about yourself, your background, and the company before we get into the content questions. Please go, Johan.
Yes, so thank you, Gerard, for having me on this podcast. So my name is Johan Langenbick. I'm co-founder of the Foodpairing company. I have a background in product development, innovation, and mainly studying creativity. I've been in that in that sector for my entire life, really pushing innovation and driving creativity to the next level. In that capacity, I've met my two co-founders, Bernard Lahous and Pieter Koekhuis. And I was involved into food and how we could use our technology to leverage food to new horizons.
That's a very interesting background coming from a designer perspective, right? And we are now designing the future with all your qualities, but maybe it's also good to reflect on, what have you experienced in the last 10 years coming to this point now where you have a fantastic company with how many people?
30 people.
30 people. Oh, this is not a small company anymore, right? And in such a short period of time to build something, you have experienced a lot. Could you maybe explain a bit about what you have seen?
So yes, so Foodpairing in the last decade has evolved quite a bit. So the company started being a pioneer in the digitization of food. And so very concretely, what does that mean? Digitization of food means that we have a lab where we digitize aroma, taste, and also texture to some extent. And we try to capture up to 1,200 physiochemical parameters. With that information, with that chemical breakdown of ingredients, we have a algorithm which is capable of predicting food pairings, what matches well with each other. And that was a very interesting scientifically inspiration or scientifically sound inspiration for chefs to find new menu items, new recipes, and to get inspiration from novel food combinations. So that was the first, let's say, big era in the development of the food pairing company, building a global chef community and inspiring them with scientific backed data. But very rapidly we gained very rapidly we gained okay, I'll pause like this. So very rapidly we caught attention from industry, and industry wanted to know if this methodology could also be applied in developing products, and that started a whole new range of developments. It was, of course, another level. We needed to acquire much more data, different and more a variety of data sets, and most importantly, we needed to capture the flavor preferences or the customer of the voice of the customer into that process. So, and this was the start of a second development of food pairing, which grown to the launch of a digital twin, which is now one of the core pillars of our technology, and that allows us to simulate novel foods and novel food combinations and to identify if they are successful in the market.
Where you went from, call it the restaurants, the chefs, to the food industry, the second part of the journey. If I would go to your company and you mentioned the lab, right? Do I see a real lab with all sorts of equipment where you do testings on different things? How does it look like?
No, it's an analytical lab. So it's not a
Mm-hmm.
sensory lab. It's not a lab where
Mm-hmm.
people taste. That's not the case. So that's the traditional
Mm-hmm.
way of working, which takes a
Mm-hmm.
long time, which is costly, which is sometimes biased from the answer that you get from consumers. No, so we use devices, we use machines, and we take samples of these products, of these ingredients, and we analyze them through our devices. So that could be a
Okay.
GCMS or an HPLC for taste.
And has that changed moving from the chef arena to the processed foods arena?
It has changed. It has changed in the the type of ingredients. So coming from raw ingredients used within chefs and more culinary ingredients towards more processed foods, towards more processed ingredients. So from raw ham to cooked ham, um, but also adding more uh, raw ingredients which are commonly used within food industry.
Like spices or starches or proteins or
Exactly. Exactly.
anything like that. Yeah, and those are very often processed ingredients. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So you really are now at the backbone of the food industry, huh? Understanding the parameters and also the qualities of the ingredients towards different food chapters.
Yes, exactly. So building the data set has been a crucial part of building the company.
Hmm.
In the context of AI, of course, if you would like to apply AI, you first need solid data and
Yeah.
not one single subset of data,
Hmm.
a large amount and a variety of data sets, and that takes time, that takes
Hmm.
efforts and resources, and that has been our main focus of the last decade to build these data sets.
So, and then maybe the question is, how can AI help the food industry in terms of food product development or innovation, and maybe particularly in the current context where, yeah, there is high inflation, and people are really looking not only to apply maybe AI to this type of activity, but also to other activities, processing, maybe food safety, etc. How do you see how your tool can help them to
Yes.
accelerate?
So we apply our AI powered platform from insights all the way to formulation, like really the product development and innovation process, and that can tackle a large range of challenges within the companies. So you asked me to identify some of the challenges. If I look at board level, at the highest level of the company, we are talking about sustainability, ESG goals. That is the main priority which we see. But then once it trickles down towards the entire company, it's about reformulation to make healthier and more sustainable products, reducing sugar, reducing salt. But it's also about faster, more efficient processes, um, and for example, re-engineering products so that we can have other ingredients which are less costly, for example. So there's a number of challenges, but what we see today is that speed, time to market, is the main driver for companies to start looking into artificial intelligence. Why? Because traditional product development processes take between 18 months to multiple years,
Hmm.
and that is a big a big challenge for companies. The cycle is too slow to be able to react to customer preferences or consumer changes, and
Hmm.
so they need to speed it up. And this is where AI can come in. We see efficiencies with a 10x factor.
In inputs, but also in
And
speed.
in speed, so in speed, but also output, it can range from 50% acceleration to 10x or to and similarly in the outputs.
So that must be amazing. That's not difficult to understand what you're saying. If you're a food manufacturer, you're at the decision level, right? And yes, still maybe it takes time for you to get it to them to understand. What are the challenges that you are seeing in getting AI? And maybe you're not the only one, right? I might have the same challenge as Asle from iComplay, who's doing food safety. Huh? What are the organizational challenges that you experiences where, yeah, there are still sometimes a lack of uptake or a lower uptake um, than you would expect?
So a challenge with every new technology is, of course, the status quo. We have been doing this for ages. Why should we change? So
Yeah.
that's a big challenge. But today we see with the democratization of AI that the minds have changed, that people really
Hmm.
would like to apply it. Especially there is a push from board levels to start leveraging AI across different categories within the or different functions within the company. So there is a big push from the management, but there's also the acceptance from the teams. They need to understand what is behind, and I can fully relate to that. They cannot work with a
Yes.
black box.
No. No.
Um, if the methodology that they've been using is very well known and they trust it, they should
Hmm.
have the same level of trust with the AI system. So it is a learning curve. It is a learning
Hmm.
curve. It's transparency. It's data compliance, um, and what we see is that companies like ourselves are gradually moving towards a level certain of certification, like ISO norms or SOC 2. And these kind of certifications will give a higher level of trust to the companies which they need. I think at the moment, trust is one of the major elements of adopting AI. If the trust is not there, you cannot be a partner, which is
Yeah.
a normal way of working.
Yeah. So you need to be open, huh? And once you're open, of course, the next level is then indeed to trust what you hear, what you see, what you can do with it. Do you spend time on training people in bigger companies, just to give them examples and show how it could work before you really start a project?
We do that in parallel. So we start a project, and then the project becomes really tangible for them, the outputs and
Hmm.
the deliverables and how it's being applied, which relates one to one to their business case. And
Hmm.
so within that process, we train people. So
Okay.
it's in parallel.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I understand that because then both have a stake instead of doing a training for a training purpose. Yeah, and so if you are
Exactly.
doing a project with food companies, how long does it normally take? Not so much the decision process, but more once the decision been taken, on average, is it a half-year project? Is it a year? Of course, after that, maybe you continue the relationship, right? You do more, but typically, what's the lead time of a project?
Exactly. So the lead time of a project is 6 to 8 weeks. But
Hmm.
that's when we take it up the challenge for the first time. When you
Okay.
would redo the challenge with that data set and that algorithm which is validated,
Hmm.
then we are talking about a couple of days. So imagine
Hmm.
that I would create an energy drink for the Brazilian market.
Hmm.
First time it would take 6 to 8 weeks. The second time, with that same target
Yeah,
audience
yeah,
and the
yeah.
same market, same category, we are talking about from insights to formulation
Hmm.
of days. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that 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 level of speed is unseen. We would never been
That's
able
right.
to do that
Mm.
without all the artificial intelligence which is behind the system.
Yeah. So basically, if I look at your company, right, and the way you have been building it compared to others that are also maybe helping one way or the other with product innovation, you've been building so much data, so many data points in the past, and having that experience that now when AI is, more on top of mind, only also at the senior level for other areas, you're benefiting from that as well, that others are active in other areas, so that the total trust of AI uh, will have increased, and you're ready to scale with the customers, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. We see where before we were more early ambassadors,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
today we see a higher level of understanding across different functions within the company. Maybe starting
mhm,
from legal is applying AI terminology within their contracts. They are
mhm.
making sure that their data is being protected, but also procurement, different ways of standardization of contracts, of collaborating with large companies. So this is a very positive evolution. I think
Mhm,
we are on just the starting point, the verge of
mhm.
adoption of AI, especially in our domain, being product development and innovation. But we're just on the verge of starting that industry and moving ahead, which is
So
in fact
we're
a big topic, because if you look at where does companies get their revenue in the next 3 to 5 years, it's through innovation. But
mhm.
innovation is a very big risk. The risk of failure is high. 9 out of 10 products fail to the market. So if we can reduce that risk and use these resources in a better way, I think that's a big win for the company. It's a big value proposition.
So in that period of maybe 6 to 8 weeks, or with a bit more, call it 3 months, you've started the project, you've come up with some tangible results, ideas for concepts, and then it's going to be tested, probably concept-wise with consumers. Are you then also involved, or are there other companies doing that work for you? And is there also AI involved when they are testing it?
So we can go from insights, consumer insights, all the way to white spacing, concept generation, concept validation, and
Mhm.
formulation. So that entire cycle. Um, and with that, we don't necessarily need any consumer panel anymore.
Okay.
We can do
Hmm.
that entire cycle fully digital.
Hmm.
Um, if the company wants to validate it, this is of course perfectly, I mean, that's their own choice, but they do that purely to validate the results, to identify if our digital twin
Hmm.
can predict what their expert panel or their consumer panel can indicate.
And how do you validate the concepts you've developed? Bitcoin.
So
Do,
normally with customers, when we have larger collaborations on multiple years, there is a validation, and that validation is done. Um, we calculate the correlation between the predictability of the digital twin against a consumer panel, and if that is high, then we know that we have. If the correlation is high, we know that our digital twin is accurate.
yeah, yeah. So you can save an enormous amount of money for a company this way. Any consumer panel is 15 to 25K. It's a very simple panel.
Yeah. It's a very simple panel, and I think the cost is one thing, but the second part is the time that it takes to set up these panels,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
and the
that's
third
right.
part is
Oh, yeah.
it's not the panel as such. It's also you sometimes get very biased results. These are still consumers, so we don't have the limitation of being able to screen only 8 products a day with a consumer panel. We can screen hundred thousands of products and really have a much more granular depth why a consumer would choose it or not. So
Yeah.
I think the bigger gain is not on the process, on the efficiency, that's a no-brainer,
Uh-huh.
but it's
Yeah.
really on reducing
Yeah.
risk on product failure, reducing risk on producing products and bring them to the market and you've spent thousands of maybe billions on a product launch, and it doesn't result. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
So with that in mind, maybe one of my last questions would be, could you explain a successful case? eh? Why was it successful? What were the principles, the starting points, the interaction, and how did you get to that good result? Or maybe you have a few results you could
Yes.
share with us.
So we are fortunate that we've been in the market for a number of years, and that we have also had customers that are willing to trust us and are actually building products on top of our methodology that went to the market. So that is a big plus. Um, One of the use cases which I'm particularly proud of is hybrid meat. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a use case where you are actually building value for the consumers on in the category of meat snacking,
Mm-hmm.
and it's particularly targeted to children. Um, and with this product, hybrid meat is in fact a transition of 100% meat to 70% meat and 30% vegetables. But that
Mm-hmm.
is quite a complex formulation that you have to make. So being able to use AI to go to that formulation faster uh, was something that not only gained time, but also in the end, we saw that the market traction of that product was really well received. So we see that young consumers, children, are actually liking these products. It's on the market. It's doing really
Mm-hmm.
well. And
Mm-hmm.
in the entire evolution of moving towards products which have a lower footprint, like the plant-based transition. I think hybrid meat is a very interesting step towards that, because you can provide the consumer the meat experience, but lower the footprint step by step.
Mm-hmm. And your contribution was to, if I would have been a meat customer, right? I said, okay, I want to like to have something else with less meat. And then were analyzing with all the know-how and the databases you have, which type of vegetables you should put in, huh?
Exactly,
And what they
exactly.
could have as a texture or taste effect.
Exactly. So the briefing was highly challenging. So it needed to have the same appeal, the same taste profile as traditional meat, but 30 to 40%, or between 20 to 40% vegetables. So the same. So the choice of the vegetables were important, because you need to have the same texture, you need to have the color, stability. So there was a whole range of parameters that needed to be in balance. And this is where also the AI was able to give us faster input on which choices we needed to make.
Yeah, I can certainly imagine that you can save a lot of time there again and reduce the risk. And where is the product on the market?
So I know it's in the market in Europe. It's in different countries in Europe. It's in the traditional supermarkets. You can find it. Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you have a photo, you want to share a photo later on with us,
Sure.
that's up to you to see if it's
Okay.
possible
Perfect.
to do that from a relationship point of view. But yeah, I think this is a very novel segment, huh? And you are talking to a category of players who typically have maybe seasoning formulators working for them to come up with a new sausage or a new burger, and they have very limited R&D capabilities. Certainly not research, but maybe more development. And
Exactly.
I can surely understand that, yeah, this is a concept that you could maybe scale and help other companies as well. Um, and,
Yeah, exactly. So today we are. So we have that full infrastructure readily available,
mhm,
and it's being brought to companies to tech-enabled consultancy. So we have still, between our technology and our end client, a number of consultants that get the
mhm,
data and the answers out of the
okay.
system and bring it to the client.
Mhm,
But we are working on a product layers that will help a larger group of the food space, of the food companies, to do it basically themselves, so that they can use our tools
Wow.
themselves and move faster within their own space and challenges.
So they buy a subscription from you, for instance, or
Exactly.
access to the tool, and then
Exactly.
they'll go and play around themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, very interesting development. And because do you at the moment, or have you worked in the past also with companies like Kerry who are doing seasonings, or McCormick or others for their customers to help them to come up with a new concept, or is it most of the time directly with a food brand?
So as we needed to have focus, we work directly with the food brand to have
Okay.
the direct feedback
Hmm.
from the
Hmm.
client. Um, today we've noticed that many players in the value chain, from ingredient suppliers to flavor houses to seasoning houses, food brands, but also the retail space, is interested in applying AI
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
one way or another.
Uh-huh.
So we have an open dialogue with all of these
Hmm.
players, and see if our technology is relevant for them. So yes, there's an open dialogue, and in some cases we are working with the three parties, being um, the food company, the branded food company, the flavor house, and us as an accelerator for the process.
Yeah. Yeah, I can certainly imagine that, with this in mind, and with the current maybe escalation of AI initiatives and uptake, with the doing that, you call it the catalog or product uh, level where people can get access to your system. How did you call this?
Yeah, it's a product
The
layer.
future?
Product layer.
Product
Yes,
layer. Product layer.
exactly.
Yeah, that you can really help a lot more customers in the future, because every project is also intense. And with that, you can probably really extra skill or give more opportunities to people to work with it. So,
Yes, and from different nationalities to different categories, we are able to scale up the technology, once we are opening up new countries and new categories. But this is gradually going on. So
of
today
course,
we
of
have
course.
we have
Yeah.
up to 14 countries, but gradually scaling up to others.
I think it's amazing to learn from your story, also to see where you will be going to. And I think you're really there at the right moment to enjoy the future developments and to also shape it and form it and, yeah, give it a direction and understanding all the customer needs, with all those times. Because what I've learned so far from speaking to many people in AI is say, well, why are you successful, to a company actively involved in advanced maintenance? And the lady from Germany said, well, you know what, we have both. We have data scientists and we have people who understand processing. And if you just have data scientists, you don't know the application or you don't understand the customer completely. And I think
Yes,
that's
yeah, I fully agree on that. I think that's basically embedded into the foundership of the company. So
hmm
one of the founders is a food scientist. The other founder is a three-star Michelin chef. So having that food science element, understanding all the complexities of food science, but also understanding the culinary part, the emotional part, knowing that it has to be balanced and taste well, and then bringing in a whole team of data scientists and AI specialists really makes a very strong and a strong team. And that's what you sometimes see lacking in purely IT driven companies, that they have the technology knowledge but not the expert domain knowledge.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very clearly your point of difference, huh? And it's not just the point of difference of today, but for many, many years. And it's in the genes of the people who started the company. So you will always look for those spaces to work and to collaborate with customers rather than just go with any customer that wants anything. And I can really see that can be a very big benefit for companies to work with you. So,
Yes, yes, yes.
we- having said that, Johan, I would like to thank you. It's now time, I think, to close this podcast. I would love to see you also, of course, in Amsterdam for the summit that we're doing, the 3rd to the 5th of September, and have you see engaging with so many different companies who will be present. So thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you. And I wish you a lot of success, but I also look forward to seeing you.
Okay, thank you very much, Gerard. It was a pleasure to being part of this podcast. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you.